Welcome to another episode in our Contested Collections online programme. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, these are monthly sessions hosted by a member of the collections team here at Warrington Museum and Art Gallery. During the session, we will build upon the narratives explored by Susan Stockwell's exhibition, Hidden Histories and Untold Stories, and take a closer look at some of the hidden histories and untold stories that the objects from our ethnology collection can tell us. This month we will look at an ivory figure from the Loangon region of West Africa. Workshops along the Loango specialised in producing carved ivory objects for foreign trade. This figure depicts a human-headed bird perching on top of a figure in European dress, and it was probably part of a larger carving. It's currently on display in the museum's World Stories Gallery as part of the Africa collection. By the 19th century, after several centuries of contact and trade with Europe, workshops specialising in carving export objects for foreign trade were established along the Loango Coast. These workshops produced objects in wood, soapstone and ivory for sale to both Europeans and Africans. Export objects in ivory included cane handles and stamps for sealing wax. The most famous objects, however, were carved figurative tusks that ranged from 20 centimetres to more than 1 metre in length. Using iron tools, artists carved African and European figures engaged in activities of daily coastal life in relief on the tusks. The artists carved and arranged the figures to heighten the naturalism and expressive power for which the Congo art is famous. They paid great attention to the dress, hairstyle and gestures of the figures. The scenes were carved and probably meant to be read starting at the base and ending at the top. This lively tradition of genre art in ivory lasted from about 1850 to 1900.
The Loango sculptures are a typical example of what is called a souvenir object, with these carved tusks receiving a large degree of attention from Western traders from the mid-19th to early 20th century. A souvenir object is a term used to describe an object that has been produced to meet a demand in the market, often by Europeans visiting areas such as Africa or Asia. The production of these made-for-sale objects often embodied meanings and memory between the local people of the region. The tusks were also seen as souvenirs of life on the Atlantic coast, in their depictions of typical life in the Loango region. Patrons from Portugal, Holland, Britain, India and America were the main commissioners of the Loango souvenir tusks.
So what do we know about the Loangon Coast? Well, it includes the area of West Africa, extending from Cape Lopez or Cape Catherine in Gabon to Luanda in Angola. Within the region, Loango has been the name of a kingdom, a province and a port. It was once linked to the powerful Congo kingdom, dominated by the Vilai, a Congo people who migrated to the coastal region during the 1300s. Loango became an independent state probably in the late 1300s or early 1400s. With two other Congo-related kingdoms, Kakongo and present-day Cabinda, it became one of the most important trading states north of the Congo River.
Ivory is an animal tooth or tusk, generally carved using a sharp cutting tool, either mechanically or manually. Humans have ornamentally carved ivory since prehistoric times, though until the 19th century opening up of the interior of Africa, it was usually a rare and expensive material used for luxury products. Exceptionally fine detail can be achieved, and as the material, unlike precious metals, has no bullion value and usually cannot easily be recycled, the survival rate for ivory pieces is much higher than those in other materials. Most ivory carved in Europe originated in Africa. Aside from its creamy light colour, African ivory is distinguished by its extraordinary workability. Its response to cutting and polishing is unique. Due to the fine cross-hatched microstructure of its grain, it accepts the finest detailing and may be chiselled from almost any angle, with comparatively little weakening or splintering. The gelatinous substance emitted from its pores eases cutting and yields a characteristic mellow sheen when polished. Over the millennium, craftsmen developed specialised tools to exploit the potential of the material. Nevertheless, the form and structure of the elephant tusk imposed basic limits on the sculptor. African elephant tusks can be more than 10 feet long and weigh more than 200 pounds, yet the deep pulp cavity in the upper third of the tusk creates a hollow region, and the area surrounding it is restricted to shallow carving. The process of discerning the optimal sections of the tusk and extracting the maximum usable matter was as daunting as cutting a diamond. The tapering solid ends were used for sculpture in the round. Any design that extended outside the limits of the tusk curving form would need to be pierced together. Master carvers at the 17th century European courts excelled in producing intricate compositions of one piece that conformed to the shape of the tusk. The thinner ends of the hollow end were used for vessels such as tankards and cups, or were sliced along the length of the tusk to form sheets, employed for relief carving. Carvers took delight in shaving portions of their compositions to a translucent degree of thinness. From 1500 to 1867, under the impetus of the European trade powers, the Atlantic slave trade moved nearly 12.5 million African slaves from Africa to the Americas and the Caribbean. The coast of Loango is an important site of intercultural exchanges in the modern world and is a major contribution to the development of the Atlantic world through the transatlantic slave trade. The area was formerly an embarkation port for captives passing through to the Americas, and thus it became one of the most important sites for the embarkation of Loango slaves in the Gulf of Guinea. More than 2 million slaves from the areas that today constitute Chad, Angola, southern Gabon, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the current territory of the Republic of the Congo would have transited through this site. So we've come to the end of today's session. Next month we're going to look at some lovely objects which were used by the Hausa people from West Africa. These items are on display in the museum's World Stories Gallery within the Africa display. The Hausa people were one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa, and between 500 and 700 CE established a number of strong states in what is today northern and central Nigeria and eastern Niger. With the decline of groups that had previously controlled the area in 200 CE, the Hausa were now able to become the strongest group within the area, and by the 12th century CE, the Hausa had become one of the strongest groups in Africa.